This is UW's Futures class, and we're going to talk about the future of higher education. My name is Corey Morbacher, and presenting this topic is also going to be Angela, Nicole, Seneca, and Veronica. Talk about the social cultural changes that are going towards higher education, not just domestically but also internationally, because the instruction university actually comes from David Bridges. He's actually a professor over in the UK. So what he's talking about is basically the spread of students. We've already seen some of that already in the present day, where students are not being housed on campus anymore. They want to live off campus. They want to live away. The spread of students also encompasses a larger area. Before it'd be 1 to 3 miles outside the university. Now it's 40 to 60 miles away from the university. And with that though, the students also encompass more people, not just like your average 18, 25-year-olds. No, now it's from your 18-year-olds all the way up to like your 40, 50, 60-year-olds. People who want to go back to school, which creates a larger demand and a larger culture of inference, because like baby boomers, they have a different perspective on education than, say, the new millennium generation does. Which goes to reorganized studies. That's why universities are kind of destructuring their classes. Yeah, they still have the typical, you start at 8 a.m. and end at like 2 o'clock afternoon classes, but now they're offering night classes, they're offering shorter week classes, they're condensing their schedule so that people can take them. It's all about what's convenient for the students, because the students are always saying, hey, we want something that we can do when we have the time to do it, but we also want to be able to do it not within your constraints or your requirements, which goes to informal learning. Informal learning kind of dictates that you learn all the time, not just while you're at school, which is a movement that's going more and more. Schools are becoming like the main staple. Yeah, that's where you get your degree, but like even when you're at work, you're still constantly learning, and that's what people want. They're doing on-the-job training now. They're providing certificates and degrees in certain fields. Like an example would be Honda. They're certifying all their mechanics as like a mechanical engineer, but they're not mechanical engineers because they're only specialized in Honda machines, engines, like that. So that's one way of informal learning that we're going towards. It's like you just learn about what you want to do, and that's it. Which goes on to the next one, which is practical versus theoretical. A lot of people nowadays, you learn a lot of theory stuff when you're going through middle school, high school, and stuff like that. But when you get to the higher education classes, they want to learn about stuff that's practical to their lives. They don't want to learn about stuff that they're never going to use because it doesn't have anything to do with their field. One thing with that, an example, marketing majors. They don't care about biology, they can care less about it. Why do they have to do it? That's one question they keep banging their heads against the wall for, because they don't want to do it and it has nothing to do with their major. Now, adaptive education, that is one thing that many people are starting to scream about, because they're learning stuff that as soon as they get done with it in school, it's completely useless because the world's already changed. They want the universities or whoever's teaching them, professors, whatever, to keep up with the times. They want to be able to be like, all right, I just got done with this, here, let me adapt it and let me do this. They want to be able to take what they learn in class and actually perform it out in the real world, which is why we're getting back to the time frame of the condensed schedules, because they want to be able to get out there. And with the time frame though, it also goes back to the practicality, because they actually want to use that time that they're in class to actually learn the principles or procedures or whatever they're going to be doing in the real world. They want to actually practice it before they actually do it, which is a great thing that our capstone class does, because policy, you actually learn how to run a business. If you learn how to run it, then good. If you don't, well then you're not going to pass. But that's one example, one small example here at the University of West Florida that shows us the practicality that we're trying to get to as a social society and as a culture.
I'm going to talk about economic changes. First, I'm going to talk about what is holding higher education back. Some of the barriers are healthcare, Social Security, other social programs, and of course the international turmoil. Economic vitality. Boosting our college completion rate from 25 to just 27.5% would yield a full 1% increase in real GDP per worker, and that's about $125 billion. The number of skilled jobs outnumbers the supply of students with higher education qualifications, and the economy needs 7 million more workers with an AA degree or higher than colleges are expected to produce. What are some of the options? Consolidation of academics and activities, like Corey was talking about. If we shorten our classes, this will save on costs. Increase academic productivity, reduce the time to getting your degree, improve monitoring and intervention performance, student support services, alternate academic delivery models, and of course that's doing your education online. what would the impact be financially and in terms of opportunity costs if we reduce and we personalize to the student?
Now I'm going to talk about the political and legal changes affecting higher education. Government at all levels is a central external force affecting higher education. It provides the bulk of funding for public institutions, which are directly subject to government policy and direction. Government, mostly at the state level, is responsible for organizing and regulating public universities, determining tuition charges, sponsoring loan and grant programs, and even determining admission policies. State government policies are more concerned with tuition, financial support, access and accountability, and the size and the shape of the system of higher education. The federal government also has a significant impact on higher education, which is a role that increased dramatically after World War II. Federal student loan programs and the Pell Grant system have become a major part of financing higher education for millions of students. The federal government also regulates certain aspects of higher education, such as athletic program regulations and access to facilities through the Americans with Disabilities Act. Universities that receive federal funding are subject to regulations and reporting requirements. The legal system also affects higher education. Court decisions of all kinds directly affect higher education, such as those concerning affirmative action and tenure and due process. These court decisions thus set precedents for academic policy. Political and legal changes occur at a rapid pace, yearly, monthly, weekly, and even daily. I would like to give you an idea of the changes that we will likely see in the next 10 years. Increasing demand for accountability, not just for teachers but also for students. Increasing demand for higher levels of productivity. Increasing number of institutions guaranteeing four-year graduations. Continuing pressure for equal rights for women and minorities. Decreasing government support and decreasing government spending. This last change is something that has been in the news a lot in the last few weeks, decreasing government spending. President Obama has announced that he intends to cut the nation's budget deficit by $1.1 trillion over the next decade. In this new plan, there is a call for major reductions in the funding of Pell Grants and other higher education funding programs over the next 10 years. These are some of the key changes that will affect higher education. Obama has proposed a $100 billion reduction in the funding of Pell Grants and other higher education programs. A $20 billion shortfall is expected in the Pell Grant program in 2012 alone. If the shortfall is unaddressed, then the maximum Pell Grant award will drop from $550,000 to $3,240 in 2011-2012. In the House bill, the maximum Pell Grant award would be reduced from $5,550 to $4,705. And the House bill could also result in the removal of 1.7 million students from the Pell Grant program. The average yearly cost of tuition and expenses in 2001 was about $10,000 for a public university and about $21,000 for a private university. In 2011, these figures rose to nearly $20,000 in the public university and about $35,000 in the private. These costs continue to rise, and there's no telling where they will end up. If government spending is reduced in the area of higher education funding, it is going to make it nearly impossible for some students to attend college. As you can see, changes in government and in new court decisions have a great impact on higher education.